Hi friends, it's Brianna and welcome back to Brianna's Bookshelf. So today we are going to be going over my spring TBR. I'm trying to keep this fairly short. I don't want it to get too crazy, but I have not been doing any monthly TBRs. That's just not really my jam right now. I am much more going with my just mood reading and not really setting out strict TBRs at the moment. But I do really like the idea of doing seasonal TBRs because I do tend to read very seasonally, wherein the current season will definitely influence what type of books I want to pick up. So I feel like for me personally, a seasonal TBR just makes a lot more sense for me right now. So I picked out some books that I would love to read this spring. So at some point during March, April, or May. And these are the books that I am going to try to prioritize. I feel like when I'm thinking about books for spring, I'm very much thinking about things, well, honestly, like a lot of different stuff. For me, spring brings to mind, all the plants are sprouting, the sun is coming out more, but also some rainy, introspective type of days. So I had my eye on some kind of lighthearted romance and fantasy romance, as well as just some plain fantasy without any romance in it. And I've got a few horror books that I want to read as well. I don't have a ton in mind at the moment that are specifically very spring vibed, but I would still like to read some horror. So we're going to go with the ones that I couldn't really think of another season to apply to. So without further ado, let's get into the stack. Starting off with the book that's probably like the least oriented towards spring, that would be The Black Hunger by Nicholas Pullen. And I feel like this feels more winter coded to me, I suppose. I feel like this is something I wish I had read maybe a few months ago, but I feel like with early spring, when it's still quite cold out, like it is at the moment, I feel like this can still match the vibes outside pretty well. And I do feel like kind of a medieval setting can go well for spring. I don't know. I'm just feeling this lately. I feel like I haven't heard that much about it, and I'm ready to discover whether I like it or not. Then I've had this one on my shelves for a little while now. This is Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily Austen. And I've heard that this is kind of funny and also kind of inspiring. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but I also feel like I've heard a ton of buzz about Emily Austen recently. I know she's come out with a lot of books since this one that have become quite popular. And honestly, just the cover is very much giving spring, like the bright yellow, the bunny rabbit. Hello, definitely spring vibes. And I'm ready to giggle and hopefully be inspired by this. We shall see. And I'm pulling for a TBR veteran, The Hobbit. I feel like this is the time to read it. I also feel like this cover is the specific edition. It has some very nice springy type colors, but I feel like this is just such a classic fantasy. We probably, most of us, kind of know what The Hobbit is about or have seen the movie. And I just love the other Lord of the Rings books. I feel like The Shire is very much giving spring, which obviously I know this doesn't all take place in the Shire, but I'm expecting The Shire to at least be in the beginning of the book. So I have that to look forward to. And this has just been on my TBR for so long. And it also feels like slightly younger, perhaps, than the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I'm not sure if that's true. I have read the other books, but I've always just heard that this one is maybe suited towards a younger audience more so than the other trilogy is. So I feel like something that leans a little bit younger can feel nice and cozy for spring too. So I'm excited to hopefully finally get to this one. I'm going in the opposite direction, a book that has been on my physical TBR the shortest amount of time. I literally just bought this. This hasn't even been in a haul yet, but it just absolutely needs to be read in spring. If not this spring, the next spring, we shall see. But this is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. I've been wanting to read this for a while, but I only have just gotten this physical copy. This is the first in a trilogy, and I think this is meant to be kind of a cozier fantasy romance, and it is also historical. I want to say it's Victorian, perhaps, somewhere around that time. And it is about a woman who is cursed by a fairy and loses half of her soul to this fairy. And it sounds so whimsical, super springtime vibes. And I have read one other Olivia Atwater book. It was one of her newer ones. I read it as an ARC a while back, and I did really enjoy that. So I'm hopeful that I will really like this one as well. In a very similar sort of vein to Half a Soul, I have The Secret Service of Tea and Treason by India Holton. And this is the last in this trilogy. I'm not sure what this trilogy is actually called. So each one is following some different kind of badass women in a very like romantic comedy, but historical and also fantasy setting. And they all are slightly intertwined. So the first book was about pirates. The second book was about witches. And I think this one is about spies. Yes, two rival spies, one fake marriage, till death, and pirates do us apart. So the pirates will be making a reappearance in this book. This series is just super cute. It's very cozy, very silly, and like cutesy. And it just, all the books in it have brought smiles to my face, and this one will be no different. And this is like literally the most springtime cover I could possibly think of. So I'm very excited about this one. Then I have another that isn't super spring coated necessarily, but I'm just getting the itch to read this. And this is Mordew by Alex Pheby. And this is the first in a fantasy series. I'm not actually sure how long the series is. And I feel like I haven't heard very many people talk about this, so I don't know a ton about it. But I'm pretty sure like the only thing I know about it is that the god or gods in this world die and they're like go to the afterlife, I think. And that's like literally all I know about it, but that sounded very intriguing to me. I do love a fantasy that involves the gods having them as characters or having, some sort of strong mythology surrounding them. And I think this one is going to be super interesting. And this is also very much giving like dark, so perhaps this should be read closer to March than later when it gets warm. But I do not know. I am just excited about this. Oh, yeah. It sounds kind of, oh, I forgot that one of the reasons I wanted to read this is because there's also catacombs. And I'm very, very fascinated by catacombs. One of my favorite movies ever is As Above, So Below, which takes place in the Paris catacombs. I'm absolutely fascinated by them. So I forgot that there are catacombs as a major setting in this book, and I'm very, very excited to read this. And I also have a few on my list that I don't own physically, but that I'm still itching to pick up soon. And the first one is Intercepts by T.J. Payne. This is a horror novel, and again, this is one I don't know too much about, but I have been hearing about it for a while, and then Sarah from Wicked Reading, I believe, did enjoy this, so that definitely bumped it up on my list because I always love all of the books that she recommends. I think she has excellent taste, especially in horror. And I have heard that this is medical horror in some way. And that is something that really interests me, but also really creeps me out is like anything to do with medical stuff. And I don't think I've ever read any sort of medical horror before. So again, not super spring coated, but I'm just like, now is the time that I'm going to read it. I don't know why. I just feel called to. The next one is like a little iffy, but I think that I want to finally read this, and that is Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. So this is an extremely popular series. I don't know what the series is called once again, but the Boys of Tommen series, I think is what it's called. I feel like a lot of the like larger booktubers love this book. But I don't know if I will because I feel like my taste doesn't necessarily align with a lot of larger booktubers. I know that this is romance, and I think about kids who are in high school potentially, and I want to say Ireland. And I've heard it's really devastating. Like there's really like triggering and dark things that are going on within the lives of these teenagers. And so everything is quite sad. I don't know that that's my jam, but I have wanted to try this. I just like everything I've heard so much about it. The people who love it seem to be obsessed with it, and I'm so intrigued. I know Alicia from Alicia Runs and Reads had read this somewhat recently, and to quote her, she said something like, "This book grew on me like mold." Yes, Alicia, that was an iconic quote. Thank you for that. And that made me want to read it even more. I don't know, I don't remember exactly what rating she gave it. I think like 3 or 3.5, but she did enjoy it somewhat and it grew on her. So I'm excited to potentially try it. Then I definitely need to read The Second Death of Locke by V.L. Bovalino. This is, I think, fantasy romantasy, and I believe that there is a female knight character in this book. I know there's a knight on the cover, but I've heard that it's a female knight story. And once again, a little bit more medieval, but whimsical. And I guess it's just medieval spring. That's what I'm feeling right now from some of these picks. I just feel it in my soul that we're having a medieval spring in aesthetic alone, hopefully, not the rest of it, but in the aesthetics. And then last but certainly not least on my spring TBR is Dungeon Crawler Carl. I feel like I am definitely late to the game with this one, and I was unsure of whether I would even be interested, to be honest. I've been hearing about this book for months. I think I actually first heard Angel from Angel Can't Read saying that she loved this book. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, she was the first of the booktubers I follow to talk about it, and since then it has absolutely blown up. It is a series, and it is dystopian fantasy, I want to say, and there is a competition element where these people are sent into dungeons, just like kind of RPG style video games, and they have to complete these dungeons on a reality TV show. And that just sounds fascinating. First off, I was not super sure that I would love this because I don't know why actually. I think just like I was not super enthused about the kind of video game connection, even though I do sometimes like a video game, but I haven't played many dungeon crawler type of stuff. Um, and yeah, I just like wasn't too sure, but I feel like this series just keeps picking up steam, and now I'm like, I cannot um, stay behind. I need to jump on the bandwagon and find out what this is about. So yes, I'm jumping on the bandwagon, and I will be reading this. And I'm so curious to see what I think because it seems like absolutely everyone who reads this series is obsessed with it. So that's very exciting. All right, so those are some of the books that I'm hoping to read these next few months during spring. Please let me know down below if you have any books that you are eyeing for springtime or that you think I should pick up. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye.